What is up, children of the cardboard? Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we've got a new deck profile. This time we're looking at OGDOADIC, LAIR of Darkness, or LAIR of the OGDOADIC, however you want to call it, LAIR of the Abyss for the OCG name, whatever you want to go roll with. That is what we're doing today. It's one of the coolest versions of OGDOADIC. I'm not entirely sure if it's the most competitive yet. I've still yet to test even this deck fully, just because it's so new, as well as some of the other builds. I know Invoked is a thing, Orcus seems to be a thing, even like Chaos variants could be a thing, and then even like after Dawn of Majesty, like a reptile, like a pure reptile, like lockdown version might be the way. I don't entirely know, but we're gonna find out, okay? So first off here, let's just get into the monsters, as always. Starting off with the low-level OGDOADIC monsters, we have 3 copies of Nu. He is the best one. 3 copies of Nauya, second best one. And then you have 1 copy of Boundless. So if you don't know what these do, real quick, Nauya and Nu kind of work in the same way, but opposite, because one is light and one is dark. So the dark one, you pitch it from hand to send any light OGDOADIC from deck to grave. Actually, any light reptile, really. And then Nu can pitch himself from hand to send any dark reptile from deck to hand. Also, if Nunu's in grave and you control no monsters or all reptiles, he could just reborn himself from the field, but he'll be banished when he leaves the field. And then now you can, if it's normal or special summoned, you can search you any OGDOADIC spell or trap. So both are really good. You also have 1 Zoha. He is more of a utility card for certain hand situations and even certain combos as well. So when he's in grave, you can just pitch any card from hand to grave to then add himself back to hand. And also when he's either special summoned to the field or, let's see, hold on. I'm gonna make sure I get this right. If he's sent from field to graveyard or special summoned from the graveyard, he can you can allow your opponent to draw 1 card, and if they do, you can add an OGDOADIC monster from deck to hand. So don't like that you give your opponent a draw, but sometimes you don't even use that effect on this card, but you know, sometimes you have to. So is that for the Lair of Darkness low monsters. 3 Lilith and 3 Arima. This is super standard for Lair of Darkness stuff if you don't know. Lilith is amazing, quick tributing itself to set any normal trap from deck, and then Arima as well, getting you Lair of Darkness, and being a pseudo-normal summon in mid-game board states can still be really nice. And he's also level 4, which can come up, because we do play a couple of rank 4s as well. So yeah, Arima, pretty cool. That's really standard though. For the high-level OGDOADICs, or for the high-level monsters in general, we'll just go through these. 1 copy of Alert, 1 copy of Curse, 1 copy of Darkest Diabolos, Lord of the Lair, and 1 copy of Abyss, the OGDOADIC Overlord. This is, again, like, kind of standard. So I've seen lists that want to play the King or the Queen. I can't remember their names. It's like Amon and Amnesia, I think. They're fine. I just don't think they're that impactful. Like, if they had legit disruption effects or something, but they really don't. They kind of like, one of them is like hand control, can force your opponent to send a card from their hand to grave, but I don't even remember if it's random or not. Either way, it just feels like super mediocre, and they tribute 2 whole monsters to come back onto the field, whereas Curse and Alert only tribute 1, which makes them really, really good. Because from grave, they just tribute 1 monster, any monster, not even a reptile, to come back, and then they do something. Alert can send stuff from your banish zone back to the grave, which is really good for this deck. And then Curse can also reborn another level 4 lore OGDOADIC monster. So you usually reborn your Nauya, and then Nauya gets you a search for a spell or trap there. So these are the best ones. They recur every single turn. Diablo's super standard in this deck. Some people like playing more of him, but I just don't really see the point. Having multiple of him is never useful, but I do play another card that gets me to him. And also Arima can technically search him out as well, so that's nice. And then you have 1 Abyss. He's the main deck boss monster for the OGDOADICs. So he can, like, once while he's on the field. And it's only once while he's on the field, so it's not once per turn or anything. He can quick effect destroy all monsters on the field that were not summoned from the graveyard. So really, really powerful board wipe, very strong. He tributes 3 monsters, which is annoying, but we have multiple ways in this deck just to get him out without even using his own effect. You almost will never use his effect, but I guess in this deck it's a little better because you can pair it with Lair of Darkness. All right, couple of win conditions, I guess. Artifact Scythe and Artifact Moral Attack. You could easily just play the Scythe if you want. I understand if you don't want to play the Moral Attack, but I like playing both because with Sanctum, like if you open Sanctum with one of these, your Sanctum is just straight up dead for the entire duel. So I do like having the aspect of, even if you draw the Scythe, it's not ideal, but your Sanctum can still be live to summon out the Moral Attack. And they're pretty damn good. I also like having Moral Attack for decks that aren't completely like blown out by Scythe. Having that other option in Moral Attack can still be really clean. All right, those are big bricks though, but technically the deck already has multiple ways of dealing with bricks. I mean, you have something like Zoha that pitches any card from hand to add himself back to hand, so you can get bricks in the graveyard and handle some other things. And other ways too, you have like Snake Rain discarding cards, Super Poly in certain variants discarding cards, right? You got plenty of ways to make it happen. As for the last monster I play in the deck, this is absolutely a flex spot, and in fact, I'm actually on 43 cards right now, and I know that's kind of cringe, but I really had a tough time trying to cut it down. I mean, as you saw, I'm playing about as condensed a monster lineup as you can play. I mean, everything's hella standard, and some people even want to add either multiple copies of these or the king or the queen. Or both. So I'm on a super compact version of this deck, and still I'm at 43. But this card is a card that I would consider a couple different things. If you didn't want Ash, if you don't feel it's impactful enough, you could look at something like Super Poly. I'm not playing it in the main, but I 100% would side it. Just gonna throw that out there. And you could main it because, with, a 3 Arima plus, the hard copies of LAIR, you fairly consistently see LAIR, and with Dragon Link being the best deck in the game anyway, you're going to pretty commonly run into a deck that's very super polyable, even without LAIR on the field. So that's definitely reasonable. Also, Pot of Prosperity. This is the one version of OGDOADIC where the other engine you're playing with it does not really use the extra deck like at all. Like LAIR just like really doesn't need the extra deck very much. And so you definitely have space to play something like Pot of Prosperity. It'll help you dig for stuff like Super Poly, for power cards like Snake Rain, for starters like Nunu and Nauya and all those cards, Lilith as well. So very, very good there. Those are just a couple of options that you could consider instead. Moving to the spells, though, we're on 3 copies of Snake Rain itself. This card is the best starter in your deck. If this resolves, you're going to be in a very good spot there. 2 copies of OGDOADIC Water Lily. Only 2. It seems like one of those engine cards you might want to play 3 of, but unfortunately it doesn't do enough by itself. Because it needs you to have the 5 monsters engraved, reptiles engraved, to then use the effect to reborn, it's not quite as good as you would think. So it's not live to do that, which means most of the time it's just sending something if you're opening it in your hand. But you do still want to play 2 of it because multiple of your combos can get this at the end of the combo, and at that point you would have 5 reptiles engrave with this, so you would get that reborn. So you can add either like Ogdo Abyss to the end of your board, or just get another level 8 back, or whatever you really want to do with that. But 2 still feels really good to me. I also play 1 Foolish Burial. So this is what I was talking about with the Diabolos, right? Why play 2 Diabolos when you could play Diabolos and a Foolish? And then the Foolish can either act as a card that gets you Diabolos engraved, because he does the same thing from in hand and engraved, so it summons himself both ways. Or it gives you the utility of being able to send Nunu, Nauya, Zoha to fix brick hands. Alert, Curse, Ogdo Abyss, just to get him set up grave. Even a Scythe or Moral Attack, if you hard drew like back to the front, that still works. So this card just has so much other utility that I don't know why you would play double Diabolos instead of 1 Diabolos, 1 of this. Monster Reborn, just generically a great card, and great with stuff like Ogdo Abyss. Just reborn him and then he's live again to get his board wipe. So really good, just a solid extender. 1 Called by the Grave, just stopping things like Ash on your Snake Rain is huge. Like I said, if Snake Rain resolves, you are flying. And it's just good in general. It's just a powerful disruption versus so many, all of these graveyard-centric strategies nowadays. And the last spell we play is 2 Lair of Darkness. You could bump this up to 3. That's going to be a personal decision for you. I just think with the 3 Arima and this, you don't want to brick on too many copies of Lair. This is a combo, like you're combining 2 strategies, and you don't want to just open like too many copies of Lair. It's one of the problems with Lair of Darkness, I would say. And you just have another engine to rely on. So even if you don't see the LAIR engine too much, like the OGDOADICs are actually still pretty competent themselves, so you can lean on that side of the strategy. But I definitely would understand somebody wanting to play 3, especially if you're on stuff like Super Poly in the main and stuff. But for me, I'm on 2. for right now. And also, if you play Pot of Prosperity, like that also significantly shoots up your chances of finding LAIR if you need it on your opening turn. And then we finish with the traps. 2 trap trick, that's for Lilith, because this allows you, even if you only have 2 copies of certain cards left in your deck, to still be able to hit those certain cards. We have 3 copies of Back to the Front, 3 copies of Artifact Sanctum, and 3 copies of Offering to the Snake Deity. I'm going to throw it out there here as well. Listen, Offering to the Snake Deity is a really cool card, but I probably wouldn't play it at a competitive event. I think if I'm going to some kind of competitive event, I'm probably looking to replace this for something along the lines of Ice Dragon's Prison, or you could even look at Dogmatic of Punishment, but you need to obviously swap in some of those extra deck targets, and I guess I can mention that at the end when we get to the extra deck as well. This is kind of a placeholder. It's just a cool card that I think like could be cool in maybe a more pure variant of like Reptiles, but I think in this deck, I think this isn't the most amazing thing, but I just had a placeholder. I don't have Ice Dragon's Prisons at the moment. But I definitely wanted something that's like active removal, whereas Sanctum can lock your opponent out, but it can be countered by stuff like Ash and stuff like Gamma on the Scythe trying to resolve and stuff. So either way, it's nice to have another option for like a powerful one-off disruption there. But Back to the Front has a ton of utility as well. Reborning Ogdo Abyss whenever you want to then just be able to make him live. Reborning Scythe and Moral Attack after turn 1 on following turns, if you weren't able to kill, is very, very huge. Reborning Lilith, reborning whatever you want, to be honest. Even Curse triggers when she's just generically special summoned, not just special summoned by her own effect. So very, very good. We know what Sanctum is with Scythe and Moral Attack, and of course Offering gives you a little bit of extra removal there as well. So very, very strong there. That's I feel really good about the trap lineup. Just simple, clean, 3 really good targets. The deck sets up the grave so easily, so even opening Back to the Front is not a huge concern. I like the main deck a lot right now. All right, obviously you got to play your torment tokens for your Lair of Darkness. But starting off with the links, we've got 1 copy of Reptilian Echidna, 1 copy of Alien Shock Trooper M-Frame, IP Masquerena, Phoenix, and Unicorn. Yeah, I mean, these are all like fairly standard. These are just utility. You got your backer removal, the generic spin combined with Masquerena so that you can make a disruption out of it. And then these 2 can come up. Echidna comes up less in this list just because she, well, actually, I guess technically not. After you use her, you can't special summon from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except Reptiles. But when she summons, she can like make some things attack 0, and she can then add Reptiles from deck to hand with different names up to the number of monsters your opponent controls with 0 attack. So make something 0, at least search a free card. So gives you a free monster to beat over as well as just getting a free resource. So it's pretty cool. Alien Shock Trooper is also kind of cool. He can quick effect discard any monster from hand to then place that many counters equal to its level on whatever face-up monsters on the field you want. And if he's destroyed by battle or card effect, he can then special Reptiles back from the grave up to the number of monsters your opponent has with a counter. So that's really cool. That actually can be really nice with something like your offering pop him after he's already dispersed like multiple counters, and then he reborns like 2 OGDOADICs from grave after you've already popped 2 of your opponent's cards. It's pretty cool. And then obviously the rest we know what those do. All right, for the Exceed monsters, 1 King of the Feral Imps. This searches out any reptile in the game. Very standard. This is the only card I'm missing in the deck right now, and funny enough, it's not even like a super relevant card to reptiles in general, but it's that Rika rank 4. When it's essentially what it does is if it's tributed, it like specials a plant Exceed monster from the extra deck and equips herself as material. Which is pretty cool because you tribute her via just obviously what OGDOADICs do. All the graveyard ones just tribute a monster. And then you use her to summon out Hyperiton and equip herself to it. So he just adds a monster negate to your board. This actually comes up fairly often for me. And it's pretty good. I mean, straight up when it happens. Then for another cool package, 1 Draglubion, 1 Hope Harbinger, and 1 number 100 Numeron Dragon. This is just also like a crazy rank 8 package. You go into Draglubion and you either just cheat out the Harbinger so that you have his spell negate and his battle protection, or you just cheat out the Numeron Dragon, because this card gains 1,000 attack times the total exceed rank on your field. So if you have Dragluvion plus him, he'll have 9,000, I believe. Yeah, until the end of your opponent's turn. Yeah. So he'll just have 9,000 attack. And so if you can just clear your opponent's field and then just make this thing, you just kill your opponent. It's the idea. It just makes putting 2 level 8s on the field like OTK and then some, which is really cool. And the last Exceed is Ding. This is just another rank 8 that gives you non-targeting, non-destruction removal. Although we do already have access to like putting LAIR on the field and then tributing in like our opponent's cards. That does take a little bit of setup. And if they don't let like LAIR of Darkness resolve, this can be your other option to out something like Dragoon. Like if they use Dragoon to negate the LAIR because they know that's what it represents, is that they'll lose it. Then like having the Ding, because the OGDOADIC still just make a free rank 8, it is pretty important. Then we go for our fusions. This is just super poly targets. I'm not maining super poly, obviously, but I think siding it is too good not to. Like this deck already, like just with the LAIR of Darkness, like means you can super poly any deck. So honestly, I'm siding super poly versus almost any combo strategy, especially combo strategies that generically can summon, or just like summon darks anyway for this. But yeah, these are 3 targets I have right now. I think I'd probably put Starving Venom in here also. I just don't know off the top of my head. I mean, I like Triffivertum because especially with the LAIR, you have such a high ceiling to be able to like super poly away 3 monsters from their field and then have a negate when they try to summon from the extra deck. That's insane. Dragospelli is also a negate, but just got to be careful with them. There are just certain matchups, right? Like you can just hit Invoked potentially for this card. You can hit stuff like Shadal's pretty easily with this card. Whereas like Starving Venom can be a little more awkward. They can play around the Starving Venom, and then Mudragon. Mudragon comes up in random situations as well. So I'd try and find room for Starving Venom. I think these are fine though for what you're looking for. But yeah, make Starving Venom. Yeah. Probably should be playing Starving Venom because I think you need it to hit Dragon. Like, whatever. Like, find room for it. I mean, it's not the biggest deal. I'd probably swap, like, Dragostapelia for it because I think Dragostapelia's biggest utility is, like, Shadal's. But Shadal's aren't, like, Super Poly's not even that good versus Shadal's anyway. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. But yeah, that is the whole deck profile. That is OGDOADIC LAIR of Darkness, or LAIR of the Abyss, I think is probably the coolest name you'll get out of that. The deck's really cool. The synergies are so cool between like LAIR and the fact that all the OGDOADICs just tribute engrave. So like any going second or any turn after like your turn 1, you've got the potential to just like tribute your opponent's monsters to put like your own OGDOADICs on the field and just get a ton of resources off of it. It's actually kind of crazy. So just keep up with that. The deck is really cool. I'm trying to do consistency, solutions with the deck, and I think maybe Pot of Prosperity is a big part of that. I do think this is one of those decks that can use it pretty well. It's obviously expensive, so we'll see about that in the future. But that's going to end it for me here today, guys. Let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think on my list here? I know it's 43 cards, but I'm just one guy building these decks. I don't even build with people most of the time. Sometimes I'll ask, some friends of mine for opinions and stuff on ratios or whatever, or if I'm really new to a deck, something. But most of the time I just build them by myself. So I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Of course, it will only help me, develop better lists down the line for some of these decks. And yeah, so thank you so much for watching, guys. As always, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more stuff from me in the future down the line. And I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.